This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
You can do a lot of things from the air, but there has to be a ground component as well.
It's going to be crippling here for a while.
We should not be punished because congressmen are fighting with each other.
A compassionate guy who can stand up when he needs to stand up.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Bringing more firepower to the fight. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. The U.S. already has quite a formidable military presence in place as the war with Iran hits week 3, but it's about to get even bigger.
CBS News has confirmed a contingent of U.S. Marines is heading to the region to help break Iran's stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has raised the idea of a ground invasion.
Only from there. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing, but there has to be a ground component as well.
CBS's Charlie Daggett. President Trump says he has no plans to involve U.S. ground forces in the fight. It's all about getting Middle East oil and gas flowing to the rest of the world again, because right now it's not, and that has caused gas prices here to shoot up like a new oil geyser. Bad news for all drivers, especially those who do it for a living. Charles Milius owns a trucking company in Selkirk, New York.
We pass it along to the customer usually with a fuel surcharge. We try to absorb as much as we can.
Truck driver Matt O'Hanley tells Spectrum News now that diesel is averaging more than $5.30 a gallon. Customers are going to pay more for just about everything.
It's going to be crippling here for a while, and as soon as the prices start reflecting on all these boys hauling it down the road, you're going to feel it.
AAA puts today's national gasoline price at $3.91 a gallon on average. A week ago, it was $3.63. A month ago, just before the war started, prices were hovering around $2.93 a gallon. Currently, it's averaging $3.78 in New York, $3.88 in Pennsylvania. Flying just isn't much fun right now either, at least not for those stuck in the longer TSA lines caused by an ongoing congressional block of new DHS funding over Democrat demands for immigration enforcement reforms. This frustrated Houston flyer tells CBS,
We should not be punished because congressmen are fighting with each other.
The same story at Atlanta's busy Hartsfield-Jackson International, one of many airports where unpaid TSA agents are now showing up for work less and less.
Many of them have been calling out. Right now, there's about a 10% call-out rate that we've been seeing this week. Here at this airport, it is much higher, closer to 40% at different points during this week. Those officers are calling out.
NBC's Aaron Gilchrist. Record-setting heat sticking around for this weekend in the American Southwest, where records have been fried.
97 expected in Las Vegas, 107 and 31 above average in Palm Springs. That's today. Tomorrow, we begin to shift things a little bit farther to the east. Oklahoma City getting into it, Little Rock as well, and in Kansas City at 91 degrees.
Meteorologist Rob Marciano. We won't feel anything like that anytime soon anyway, though Kevin's forecast for your area is just ahead. He was a tough guy for real, but on the screen, that toughness took on mythical proportions.
You forgot to read us our rights.
You're right. You have the right to remain silent.
Martial arts expert turned actor Chuck Norris, who has passed away at the age of 86. Here he is on how he hoped his tough guy persona was viewed.
A compassionate guy who can stand up when he needs to stand up.
And you know what? Norris got a laugh from all of those tough guy Chuck Norris memes that many people now know him for.
I heard another rumor that you were bitten by a king cobra.
Yeah, I was. But after 5 days of agonizing pain, the cobra died.
Among Norris's more notable acting credits, a long run as Walker, Texas Ranger. His family says he passed away in Hawaii after a sudden medical emergency. Looking to launch, NASA rolling the Artemis II moon rocket back to the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. The Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft started the slow trip just after midnight after some wind-related delays. CBS's Mark Strassman says it's quite an effort getting that rocket into place.
The 4-mile trip to the pad began just after midnight, delayed by more than 4 hours because of high winds. Getting it to the pad is a heavy lift. The rocket, topped by the Orion capsule and stacked with the mobile launcher, all together weigh 11 million pounds.
The 4-mile rollout comes after teams repaired a helium flow issue and replaced a lot of batteries during nearly a month-long overhaul inside the vehicle assembly building. Artemis II targeting an early April launch window to send 4 astronauts on a 10-day mission around the moon, the first crewed flight of the program. International National Bible Month just wrapped up at the Voice of the Martyrs. More than 300,000 Bibles donated in 30 days. They'll be smuggled into countries where they're banned.
Our persecuted brothers and sisters, the first thing they ask us to do is to pray. And then the second thing they say is, okay, send more Bibles. We need more Bibles. And so this is such a great start to this year to have 310,000 Bibles sponsored in a single month. Just thank the Lord.
Voice of the Martyrs Vice President Todd Nettleton, who says sometimes they drop those illicit Bibles over borders using helium balloons. Sometimes they print covertly right inside the country.
Sometimes that literally is getting them a Xerox machine and helping them set up a little printing operation. Sometimes you can go to a printer who says, sure, I'll run my press from midnight to 4 a.m. I'll print what you want me to print, but it's going to cost you.
Nettleton says that work can also cost Bible smugglers or printers their lives.
I'll never forget, I had a conversation with one of our partners who helps us get Bibles into China. And he said, as he does his annual performance reviews, he asked them the question, are you ready to go to prison for 3 years to continue working with us? Because that's the reality. Are you okay with that? Are you still ready to take that risk? And he said almost all of his employees have said absolutely.
You can learn more about the missions work of Voice of the Martyrs at persecution.com. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of our top regional stories and highlights from today's Capital Connection. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. It's the inescapable topic these days. Governor Josh Shapiro and PA Attorney General Dave Sunday co-hosting a roundtable on the potential dangers of artificial intelligence.
Schools need to be far more aggressive in educating and empowering parents and students so that we can prevent the kind of thing we saw here at Radnor and in other schools, and give people at least the comfort of knowledge on how to deal with these emerging technologies and the threats that come with it.
Much of the discussion focused on AI in schools, including incidents of deepfakes and online harassment. Parents sharing firsthand experiences, like mom Audrey Greenberg, who has a daughter at Lancaster Country Day School. That school made national headlines in 2024 after students were targeted using AI-generated content.
My daughter was a victim of this particular crime, and what we saw was that the institutions, including the police and primarily the school, did not know how to respond to this. We were re-victimized by the response by the school.
The governor has launched an AI literacy toolkit for parents and teachers and is strengthening protections around AI-powered tools. Starting tomorrow, stores across the state of New York have to offer customers cash as a payment option. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Yeah, in the digital age, when seemingly everything is now tap and pay, the state is mandating that food and retail stores must also continue to accept cash. The statewide law aligns with the New York City law that's been in effect since 2020. However, stores do not need to accept bills larger than $20, nor do they have to accept cash for orders placed online or over the phone. Stores caught violating the law will have to pay a $1,000 fine for a first-time offense. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Climate change canceled. After weeks of discussion, New York Governor Kathy Hochul is finally speaking out about the controversial climate change law, NYSERDA. In an op-ed today, she laid out a handful of significant changes she wants to make to the 2019 law, including suspending deadlines and changing how pollution is accounted for. NYSERDA would have required New York to slash its so-called greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030. Now, Hochul says she wants to push that off 10 years because of, quote, significant economic and political challenges. Now, no big upset so far today in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, though Kentucky did need overtime to squeak past 10-seed Santa Clara. With March Madness and the New York State High School Boys Basketball Championships happening at the same time, restaurants in Binghamton are prepping for an uptick in customers. Binghamton Mayor Jared Cram.
We're putting our best foot forward. We're working with all of our local restaurants to ensure that they are ready and able to support this influx of tens of thousands of people into our downtown. We have our downtown that will be cleaned up. We're making sure that it's all free from debris, and we couldn't be happier to host excellent high-level basketball here in the arena.
Binghamton will host the state high school basketball tournament again next year. And New York State police say a tractor-trailer struck more than a dozen overpasses along a 60-mile stretch of the state thruway in central New York. The semi was hauling an overweight excavator while traveling westbound between exit 30, Herkimer Mohawk, and 36 for I-81 North. Troopers stopped the truck in the town of Salina. Most of the overpasses suffered minor damage, a few more moderate damage, no injuries, but the driver was given more than 20 traffic tickets, including several for federal commercial vehicle safety violations. You'd think that first overpass crash might have gotten his attention. Up next, highlights from this week's edition of Capital Connection. Our Bob Price huddles with Stephen Hayford from New York Families and Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute on the hot topics in Albany and Harrisburg, beginning with the downside of March Madness.
Gambling is a big business in the tournament, and March is, by the way, Problem Gambling Awareness Month. I know this is a huge issue in Pennsylvania. We'll start with you just talking about the addictive nature of gambling and how difficult it is to break that cycle of addiction.
Yeah, Bob, I think we could apply the term March Madness not just to the basketball tournament, but also to the massive expansion of gambling, casinos, sports betting, online wagering, skill games, and more that really peak this time of year, from the Super Bowl, Olympics, NCAA tournament. And with it comes the massive expansion of problem gambling that's not going to be solved simply by naming a month after it. The problem is especially prevalent among teen and college-age males, drawn in especially by the ability to gamble online with a smartphone in the privacy of their bedroom. The stats are simply staggering, and the big challenge is that starting young increases the likelihood of problem and addictive gambling. It's really a hard nut to crack, especially because it's an addiction that, unlike someone battling alcoholism or drug abuse, it has no outward physical signs.
Yeah, Stephen, as Michael's saying, it's unfortunate we only pay attention to this issue in March when it's Problem Gambling Awareness Month, because this is a problem all 12 months of the year. If you would talk about the proliferation of sports betting in particular and why it's a bad idea, because I know a lot of Christians, good-meaning Christians, will say, why is this such a bad idea? Why would this be something we should avoid getting involved in?
Well, Bob, sports betting has contributed to gambling addiction generally because the more types of gambling are legal and available, the more opportunities there are for people to get hooked on gambling. The state of New York legalized sports gambling on mobile devices in 2021, and it's already become big business here. In 2025, people spent $26.3 billion on online sports gambling in New York. Sports bettors are about twice as likely as the general population of gamblers to develop a gambling problem. In terms of your question about why gambling is a bad idea, I would refer people to 1 Timothy 6, which says, those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil.
Yeah, we could spend the entire program on this topic, guys, but let's move on. Michael, here's another great issue. I couldn't believe that we see stats all the time. This one really got to me because it was a wow moment for me. Centers for Disease Control reporting that 40% of babies born today are born to unmarried moms. Back in 1960, it was just 5%. So in 65 years, we've gone from 5% to 40%. Why do children fare better when they're born in a home with both a mother and a father?
Well, Bob, first of all, it's rooted in creation order. Marriage and the family unit are part of God's design for human flourishing. And when we depart from that design, the consequences are evident in the challenges we see in society all around us today. So many of the problems faced by our culture and society are rooted in the breakdown of the family and fatherlessness. Social science research shows that whether looking at crime rates, homelessness, substance abuse, mental health issues, and more, in so many cases that can be traced back to the lack of family formation and a mother and father in the home. Of course, we should mention there are heroic single moms and dads who are making the best of the challenges they face, but I think most of them would agree that it's not the ideal.
Thanks, gents. You can hear the entire Capital Connection and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
What happens when we try to profit from what God intended to give freely? Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. In 2 Kings 5, God heals Naaman of leprosy through the prophet Elisha. Elisha refuses payment, making it clear that God's grace cannot be bought. But Gehazi, Elisha's servant, sees an opportunity. He secretly chases after Naaman, lies in Elisha's name, and takes silver and clothing. What Gehazi gains financially, he loses spiritually. His hidden greed costs him his position, integrity, and ultimately his health. This is such a strong reminder that stewardship isn't just about managing money. It's about the heart behind our decisions. When financial gain outweighs faithfulness, the cost is always higher than the reward. Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
Thank you, Rob. Finally at 5, spring has sprung. Thank you, Beach Boys. It was official at 10:46 this morning. Here's a few springy facts for you. Until the 1300s, spring was called Lent. The word Lent comes from an Old English word meaning spring. It was then called springing time, then just springtime, finally just spring. You could also call it the vernal equinox here in the northern hemisphere, vernal for spring, equinox, Latin for equal night, one of 2 times each year when daytime and nighttime are the same length. In the North Pole, it marks the start of 6 months of continuous daylight, 6 months of darkness at the South Pole, and if you could have stood on the equator today, you would have seen the sun pass directly overhead. It also would have been a lot warmer than the first day of spring here. And that's the world we live in for Friday, March 20th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. Have a blessed weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.